Today I've got a little bit of a clogged up nose from I had a cold recently, and so I decided to get something a little spicy to kind of try and clear my nose up. Um, so this dish is called Kao Long Mian. Um, this is a classic street food in northern China. Uh, Lung Mian, lung means cold, and mian means noodles. Lung Mian is a type of like noodles in cold soup dish that is common both in northern China and in Korea. Um, so it's just called cold noodles. Um, that's a different dish though. So it's a type of sort of clear crystal type noodles that they serve in in a cold soup. But those noodles come in a flat sheet that then gets torn apart. So like this has lots of noodles here, and they would be pulled apart. Well, you soak them in water, and they come apart, um, and that's how they're sold. So so this dish is made from those same noodles. So these are like sheets of the noodles, though. Um, oh, here you can kind of see here where the individual noodles are starting to come apart on this. So these noodles are called lung mian. And then kao means grilled, cooked over a fire or cooked on a griddle, something like that. In this case, cooked on a griddle. So this is a pretty classic street food where they take those noodles that are used in that cold noodles dish, which is like a soup. It takes a little longer to prepare. It's not a super fast dish. And they just throw these sheets of noodles on like a griddle with some egg. So you can see here, this side of this has egg cooked into it. Maybe if I get one with some white egg, you can kind of see where the egg's cooked onto it. So I basically throw an egg or a couple eggs on the griddle, throw these noodles on top of that, and then let it cook a bit, and then just start kind of chopping it up and stirring it around with some sauce. It's usually kind of a spicy sweet sauce. Varying restaurants do it different. Like some are really sweet, some are really spicy. This particular restaurant, the one I ordered from specifically tonight, is quite spicy. So that's kind of why I ordered it, because hopefully it'll clear my nose up, it'll clear my sinuses up. So those are the basic two ingredients, is just egg and these noodles, these sheets. So they don't actually tear the noodles apart into noodles, they just have sheets of noodle. And those are cooked in the sauce. Like I said, it's usually a sweet, spicy sauce, varying in degrees of sweetness and spiciness. And then there's usually some other ingredients you can get put in. This is a classic kind of food truck dish where at the truck they'll have a whole bunch of little sort of side dishes that you can just have them throw into yours when you're making it. Usually they'll have some kind of sausages, maybe bits of chicken or something. Although typically it's stuff that can sit out, so it wouldn't be like bits of raw chicken. It would be bits of like already cooked chicken or something, or chicken sausage, or pork sausage, or those are the main things people get put in it, or maybe some types of tofu and stuff. So this one They this one is like a delivery restaurant, and they don't really have quite as much selection as maybe like a food truck stall would have. They just kind of have the way they do it. This isn't the so at a food truck, that's the only thing they're making. This restaurant does a whole bunch of stuff. They just happen to make this dish as well. Um, this is one of my favorite restaurants in the city, called Xiaomenkou, which means Xiao means school, and Menko means gate. So it's like it's basically a nostalgia restaurant that makes the kind of food that at a school gate, like outside the gate of like a school or university or something, there'll be some food trucks selling food that people can get for lunch or whatever. And this place makes stuff that's supposed to be nostalgic of that style of food. Um, they do a bunch of different stuff, but um, their version of this dish is quite good. It doesn't taste exactly like a lot of the normal street. This is like a slightly different version than is typical at most of the street vendors. Um, I think it's more similar to a like a um, some of the more rural areas around here. If you go there, they'll have this version, Mm. or it might be an older version. But so they put just cut up sausage. This is kind of like a hot dog, basically. Um, just slice it up. Some places will just slice it in half and have the whole sausage in. Some places will chop it up into small bits. And then the other main ingredient is just cilantro. I put a whole bunch of cilantro in. And then the last thing, the one thing they do have that you can order extra is this stuff, which is a kind of a strange, it's a type of like dried soy product. Um, it's not exactly like tofu. Um, Although the best way I could describe it is it's similar to like tofu jerky. Um, in Chinese, it's called la tiao, which just means spicy sticks, um, because it's usually soaked in some kind of chili oil. Uh, but it's a really common, like, very cheap snack food. It's the kind of thing that at like a convenience store they'll just have on the counter, and if you buy something and it's like, and you have 10 kwai, kwai is the money here. If you have 10 kwai and you give them a 10 kwai bill and it costs 9.5 kwai, this latiao will be, they'll just give you that instead of giving you change. They're like, here, you can just have this as well. And then it'll bring it up to so this is a common kind of bring it up to the full total snack. They often do that with small candies and these kind of snacks. Because they're so cheap, they can just act to kind of fill in the little gaps between full monetary denominations. This part of China doesn't really like using coins. Um, well, I mean, now this is kind of going out of style because everybody uses electronic money. But in the past, the south of China was very big on using coins for even uh, largest denominators, like one kwai coins and stuff. Harbin and I think the North in general is much more paper money oriented. I think probably because of the cold, in the winter I would not want to have to deal with metal coins. So paper is a lot better up here. So, but the smallest modern paper denomination in the past, like 20, 30 years ago, they had smaller denominations of like, so the Chinese money is renminbi, which is that's the name of the money. But it also has two other names. It can be called renminbi, yuan. That's the official like name of the money in Chinese, or kwai, which is kind of like a slang term for the to call the money. So like those are the three main ways you would refer to like the standard currency of China. But then that's broken down into smaller portions, typically just into tenths. 1/10 of a renminbi is called um, miao. No, not miao. Sorry, mao. So one mao is 1/10 of a renminbi. Um, there is a smaller denomination that's like 1/100th of that, but nowadays that's very rarely used. You don't really see that at all. Historically, that was around, but that's not for a long time. That hasn't been used. Um, but so like these things will often cost less than one kwai. So then like they would use them as a. I mean, if the smallest bills you have, and no one wants to use change in coins, so you basically got to get every transaction rounded up to a full one kwai value. So if you have a bunch of little items that cost half a kwai, so if something costs 4.5, then you can throw in something and then the total is 5 kwai. So this is a very common, just cheap snack. And so they just throw these in with this dish. I quite like these as a snack food too. So I eat them as a snack food, and I'll get them thrown in here. The texture is kind of like a type of jerky. It's very chewy and dried out, and but it holds flavor pretty well. That's a key to a lot of Chinese stuff, is a lot of the various ingredients they use and stuff doesn't really have its own flavor. It just has an interesting texture, and then you use some kind of sauce to like that texture will hold the sauce and like give you flavor. So if you were ordering this on the street, you would just go up and order one bowl of it, and then they'd get it ready and start they start chopping it up and throwing sauce in, and then you could tell them like, oh yeah, add an extra sausage in or add something else in, and they'll just throw that in and chop it all up, and they kind of chop it all up and then throw it into a bowl. This is in kind of just a to-go container. But it's a classic late night drunk food kind of thing. When you're wandering, if you're out drinking or something, you're wandering around the streets, there'll just be a little food truck somewhere, and you just go over and order this. That's kind of how most foreigners are introduced to this food. But it's quite delicious. The sauce is very flavorful. This one is quite spicy. I think it is going to help clear my sinuses up, like I said. Maybe see, like you can see it. The sauce is pretty red. It has a bit of sweetness in it, but it's got a lot of chili as well. Spicy pepper. But it's quite delicious. This is one of those things that it's really hard to translate, because like there's nothing even remotely similar that I'm aware of in the West. And this is not a modification, but even like cold noodles are not really a thing in the West. So like this is 2 steps removed from something that someone in the West would have. Like the mythology of this is that some guy who ran a cold noodle shop like didn't have water or something. I don't remember exactly what, or he was in a hurry. He needed to cook something up quickly. And so he's just like, well, I'll just throw it on the griddle and see if that cooks it up. And they cooked it up with some sauce, and then people liked it. And then they're like, oh, well, we could turn this into a dish. That's a very sort of mythological, apocryphal version of the origin of this dish, I'm assuming. But that's kind of the story that people tell about it. If you're ever wandering around the streets of China, mostly in the north, I think they might have this in the south, but it's the north is fairly famous for having this, so I think that's kind of more likely place you'll find it. It's just called Kowloon Mian. And it's quite delicious. I'll finish up eating and turn this video off.